certified organic
Back
by
again.
USDA.
I got people
In
calling
terms
me
of
up. I'm gonna
heirloom
have to
seeds, heirloom
stop
just
using
means
this
any
number
variety that
for my
hasn't been
lives.
hybridized that's older than 50 or 60 years. So it would not be GMO, but it doesn't have to necessarily be organic. And a company like, a large corporation could distribute heirloom seeds because it's just a variety of seed. In terms of where we buy seed, seed. We really try not to buy seed. We save all our seed, or a good portion of it, in our garden. So when we weed our garden, we're weeding out seedlings that popped up from what were there the year before. And seed saving is one of the easiest things you can do for a lot of different crops. You don't have to do anything except let the plant go to its fruition and then beyond, and save the seed. When we do buy seed, we try to buy from cooperative companies. So a company I like that's not local but is a cooperative, it's called Fedco. They're back east. We buy seed from them. Johnny's is okay. They're a worker-owned cooperative. You can get seed from Peaceful Valley. If you're in Oakland, Kitawana, they do mostly rare, or not rare, but a lot of varieties of Asian vegetables, which are some of the funnest to grow. So we just advocate, once you buy seed once, you should never have to buy it again as long as it's not GMO, so just save your seed.
Yeah, with seed production and seed saving is something I'm really not that knowledgeable of. It's something I've been learning along the way. We're still trying to figure out how to produce food from seed. We've been partnering with the Free Farm, which is within their greenhouse. But my understanding is it's much more difficult to direct sow in San Francisco just because of our weather patterns and whatnot. Our food crop spectrum is much more limited than it is in the East Bay in San Francisco, and our planting windows are a lot smaller. But I'm more of an organizer by trade than a farmer, so I've been trying to teach myself a lot of these things along the way. I know San Francisco has a seed library that you can get seeds, you can access seeds from. But to the best of my knowledge, that's all I know.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was just also going to say, I think just about everywhere in the Bay Area there's a seed library. There's definitely several in the East Bay as well, so that's a great way to get seeds. You would have to check to make sure it's a variety that's, not at risk of being GMO or something like that, but yeah. Yes? Oh, sure.
Hi, I used to cook with Food Not Bombs, and currently there's very few organizations set up to help people get together and cook that do not have access to kitchens. For example, if you're in an SRO, it's kind of hard to cook in those rooms. And I know of one group, may I mention them? www.vokusf.org. It's a people's kitchen. We rent 2 different churches. We rent the kitchen and the hall, and we invite anyone who wants to come eat, have a free vegan meal. And we encourage that across the nation, people organize to set up kitchens for those of us who would like to come cook.
Great. Thank you. That sounds like a great resource. Yes, Priscilla.
For somebody that has never gardened before, doesn't have access to a garden, gets an apartment, and what is the first step way of being introduced into that garden if you don't have access to a community garden?
Yeah, so how can you get started if you don't really have access to either a garden plot or a yard to garden? Is there any small way that you can get going in building a little garden?
So I don't know what your layout is in your living situation, but we do a lot of stuff on rooftops. So I don't know if you have access to a roof where you can support that. What's that? Patio. Yeah, so you can use raised containers, I think are a big way. You can go in limited space. Also window boxes. You can grow some things in window boxes. The main thing with growing on your roof is the structural integrity of the building. Like about a milk crate full of wet soil is about 80 pounds. So soil is very heavy. So if you're trying to grow a lot of food, you can get up into the thousands of pounds pretty easily if you're trying to produce a lot. So making sure that your building can support that. And also like things like lettuces and bok choys and leafy greens, kales, those are all pretty easy to grow. So herbs, definitely.
Great. All right. Yeah. What other questions? Thinking about community gardens and or food recovery. Is that a hand in the back? Oh,
This came up with the film series. This came up with the film series where some tech you probably remember me, where there was this person trying to understand about compost. So it's the running puzzle of buying organic food and plant it, and then the great care of putting it in sprays and using it natural, and then find out that the compost you get from ecology is mainstream. Yeah, this is how does that play into the package of product and what's a good source?
right. So yeah, how do you make sure that the compost you're adding to your garden doesn't have all the things that you're trying to avoid when you're growing your own vegetables, like pesticides or GMOs or those kind of things?
So there are some certified producers of organic compost, where they source manure from, cattle that have been fed organically and whatnot. But the nature it is, most of us eat conventional food, and most of our food system is conventional. So if you're going to be composting, a lot of that is going to be conventional food that's being composted, and there's that residue. A lot of that stuff can be processed by microbes. They break it down, and then the heating process of the compost, where the microbes break down the organic matter, sometimes breaks down the chemical bonds of some of these pesticides. I don't really trip on that, because I don't think that is as bad as getting, the farm workers being sprayed with pesticides and your food being coated in the chemical. I'm not a chemist. I don't know how much the plant is taking up of these pesticides that's from that compost. I don't know if anyone's doing that. I would check out UC Davis for some research. They have the SAREP program. There's a couple programs where they do that sort of research on compost. Also at Columbia University in New York, they have a whole compost research center that might be able to answer some of these questions. But I think it's a non-issue, and I don't think it's that. I wouldn't worry about it. Some people are like hypersensitive around their food, and so for those people, I'm sure it's a concern. I'm not discrediting it, but I think for the majority of us, that is not the issue. If you live in a city, we're covered in, there's chemtrails that are sprayed from here. Everything is sprayed. We're all covered in pesticides, so I would worry about these things rather than worrying about if your compost was made from organic banana peels or not.
All right, great. And I think we have time for maybe just one or two last questions, where it's probably about time to wrap up. Yeah.
I'm gardening in containers with a lot of soil and bags. What's the like? How long does the organic nature of the back oil last? And when the plant six soil only a year or two, I guess how much can I just amend it with like another bag of amendment? Is that good enough, or do I have to do something else?
Okay, so soil, its nutrients and
Yeah, organic.
oh, for if it's organic soil. Yeah. Right, and just adding an amendment is that enough? Okay. Anyone can speak to that? Okay.
But yeah, we do a lot of container gardening as well, and it really depends on what you plant there. Something like tomatoes takes a lot of nutrients out more so than like lettuce does. You can also do companion plantings, which I'm not super knowledgeable on what you would do, but there are things that will, for example, take nitrogen from the soil, and you can plant beans after that, or with them, that will put nitrogen back into the soil, and that will prolong the fertility of the soil a lot. And then over time, you can add amendments of using manure or earthworm castings, or adding new soil as well, and help blending that in. But a lot of it depends on what you're planting.
In terms of good crop rotation, so if you plant tomatoes in your 5-gallon bucket, don't plant anything in that family the next time, because they take out the same nutrients. I would always add all your coffee grounds and tea leaves around the base of the plant. And eggshells. Eggshells provide calcium. coffee grounds provide nitrogen. So you have three macronutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then you have a lot of macro, then we have a lot of micronutrients you can add. In terms of your question around the shelf life, the difference between chemical agriculture and organic agriculture, the nutrients aren't available in organic agriculture until they're processed by a microorganism. So when we're eating chemically produced food, it's basically like they fix nitrogen through the Haber-Bosch process, make some kind of chemical from petroleum, and then it's available to the plant the next day. In organic agriculture, a bacteria or a fungus needs to break apart the bond and release the nitrogen. So if the soil's not wet, if it's just dry, it's not going to be available. If it's wet and the soil's alive, then the bacteria are going to be processing it, and then the nutrients will be more available. So every season you should add compost or worm castings, but if you don't have that and you don't want to buy it, just always add your coffee grounds and your eggshells. The eggshells are basic, alkaline, and the coffee grounds are acidic, so it'll become somewhat neutral, and that's kind of like adding compost, and it's free. No, composting is not. I mean, I don't look at it as a science. It's an art. Just don't put layers and layers of it on there. You know, do it every couple weeks, and then when you plant something else, you're turning the soil in. It gets mixed in there. It breaks down. Just keep it going.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, the green shirt.
You guys mentioned that municipal have compost piles that are available on a monthly basis.
So what's the question? Just to.
What is the tip that you can get?
Oh, a tip.
There's free compost available through city composting programs. Like all the food scraps that are hauled away and everything into the yard, they get composted and then they dump a huge amount of compost in certain locations. You can look up New York City. Compost program. Like Berkeley has one down by the marina that they drop off on the last Friday of every month. And it's like from those trees to those trees, and it's about, huge amount of compost. And it's free.
Wow. So free compost thanks to your local municipal composting service. So yeah. So just kind of Google municipal compost source, something like that.
311.
Great. That's a great tip. All right, well, I think it's probably about time to close, so I thought I would just give everybody an opportunity if you had any closing thoughts that, just thinking we're about to leave the festival in a half hour or so, and anything that we should kind of carry forward with us, or any other closing thoughts that you had. Do you want to start us off?
Cool. Thank you again for having us. If you're ever in the East Bay, hit us up. Fat Beats Produce. It's fatbeatsproduce.org. We do CSAs. We also do organizing, solidarity work with groups across the country. I wanted to end just with a little quote that we really like to use when we're talking about gardens. We're really cautious on who we partner with politically in our organization and what we do it for. A lot of folks, a lot of landowners that are building luxury lofts for the wealthy come to us and say, hey, can you put this garden in across the street in this public plaza where there's an abandoned lot? And what they're really saying to us is, hey, can you get these poor people out of this lot so that I can sell my homes to rich people? And so we be real cautious when we do gardening in an urban area. And really what we got that from was this quote from Lilla Watson. She's an indigenous activist, I believe from New Zealand. And when we think about partnering with people, she says, if you've come here to help me, you're wasting our time. But if you come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. So before we put community gardens in a community, we gotta make sure there's community. And we gotta make sure that people want the garden in the neighborhood and that you're working with people that have historic roots in that community. Or sometimes the work that you're doing can lead to displacing people in that neighborhood. So I just think that growing food is a very political act, and you have to remember that. And there's ramifications of the work you do, so be real cautious who you're partnering with. I mean, there used to be a garden right here, the Victory Garden that they had with Gavin Newsom. Where is it now? What happened to these resources? Was that just for show and tell? It was, what organization has what mission? Is it for foodieism? Is it for food justice? So just being really cautious on who you're working with, where your funding is coming from, and growing food is a beautiful thing, but just be cautious.
Yeah, I'd like to, thank everyone for the opportunity to speak here, and thank you all for sitting through the panel. I really think that food justice holds a lot of potential to be able to grow into a very large movement of bridging, the historical kind of social empowerment, political education,